Hello everyone, this is Debra Richardson, and today I am putting the AP in Happy where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. This podcast will give a voice to accounts payable team members by talking about the growing reality of cyber attacks in their world and which vendor setup and vendor management techniques they can apply to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Need training? Visit the Vendor Process Training Center to enroll in your choice of weekly live and on-demand training sessions. Plus, get access to vendor setup form templates and reference tools that will help you and your team to reduce the potential for fraud, compliance fines, and just overall bad vendor data. So sign up for a free account to get access to free training sessions, vendor process FAQs, and a resource library with information you need to manage your vendor master file. Visit training.debrarrichardson.com today. The link will be in the show notes. There is still time to process tax reporting files in the IRS FIRE system. For 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC filers, if you want to know what you can file and the deadline you need to file before the FIRE system is retired, keep listening. Welcome to episode 401, the IRS FIRE System's final chapter. What 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC filers can still file and when. Now, first of all, I do want to say this is going to be a shorter podcast because it is almost vacation time, and Frosters, if you are listening, don't even try to get a email through when I'm on vacation because it's not going to work. Secondly, either you are tired from getting your kids' school supplies and clothes and getting them ready for back to school, or you're still doing it because they go back to school after Labor Day, like they do here in Michigan where I live. And I am sure whichever camp you're in, you'll be appreciative of a shorter podcast this week. But we are talking about something that is important, and it is the fact that, one, the FIRE system is retiring. And we know that they said that, and I don't know about you, but I just did not believe that it could be done in such a short period of time, because I think they only announced it last year or earlier this year. Maybe it was last year, but it is true. It is going to be retired, and the system that will replace it is the IRS IRIS system, IRIS. And that stands for the Information Return Intake System, again, IRIS. Now, I do have a couple of podcasts on it. One was earlier this year, is episode 374, and it was still during the time while you could still use FIRE for filing 1042Ss because they weren't due until after the podcast was published. And so again, episode 374, 3 reasons why it's better to use IRIS and not FIRE for 1042S forms for tax year 2025. And then last year, I actually attended an IRIS working group meeting. They actually do, the IRS has one every month, and I think it's the second Wednesday every month. But I do have a link to that in the show notes of podcast number 3 or episode number 350. 3 things I learned from attending the IRS workshop group meeting and how you can attend the next one. So, yeah, I do have a link in that. And then I do have one from earlier last year, episode 321. One critical thing I learned testing the IRS system. So if you just go wherever you are subscribed to my podcast or wherever you listen to it and just type in Iris and, putting the AP and happy, those 3 podcasts should come up. Or you can just go to my website at at training.debrarrichardson.com and look for the podcast under content. And I started to say, because it is called the Vendor Process Training Center, but I have all my podcasts there as well. But you can search for it wherever you listen to podcasts. So anyway, we are talking about the IRS system, or actually we're talking about the FIRE system and how IRS is going to replace it for tax year 2026. But there are some things that you may need to still file in the IRS's FIRE system. And so, what could that be? Well, that is corrections. And so, if you have corrections for the 1099 NEC or the 1099 MISC, the rule is wherever you filed or whatever system or method you use to file the original 1099 NEC, 1099 MISC, that is the system that you need to file the corrections in. And so for or through tax year 2025, if you have corrections with the 1099 NEC, 1099 MISC, and you originally filed them in FIRE, then you have to file the corrections in FIRE. Now, let me just say it's not just the 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC. Those are just the forms that I focus on. I also focus on the 1042S as well, so that would be included in this list too, even though I didn't put it as part of the podcast episode name. But that is included as well. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to list off here all of the different forms that can be filed with FIRE if you have corrections, again, through tax year 2025. So that's Form 1097, Forms 1098, Forms 1099. So not just the NEC and MISC, but all Forms 1099, Form 3921, Form 3922, 22, Forms 5498, Form 82 or 8027, Form 8596, also Form 8955-SSA, and I just mentioned Form 1042S, and then also Form W-2G. And so those are the forms. Not sure how many you would be responsible for if you're listening to this. Probably, definitely not all of them, because you probably work in AP or in within the vendor team, and you are responsible for tax reporting. And the reason that I focus on 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC is because for the types of payments that come into accounts payable, those are the 2 forms. Oh, and 1042S, just not as many, but those are the forms that you issue the most for vendor payments. Again, the 1099 NEC and 1099 MISC, and then also the 1042S. And 1042S is for non-US vendors reporting their payments. So that's why you may need to still file with FIRE this year. So that being said, what are the deadlines? And so looking at the typical process, right, for filing anything with FIRE, the first thing that you have to do is to export the file and then import that into the test system to make sure that there are no issues. So you're really checking your electronic information returns before sending them to the IRS. And so that's the first deadline that you have to make sure that you abide by. And so that date is November 1st, 2026. Now, the date that you actually have to, the last day that you have to actually file your information returns in the production system, and that is filing them with the IRS, is November 19th, 2026 at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I am going to put a link to where I found these deadline dates, but I also want to tell you that the reason that I knew about them is because I was emailed those dates by the IRS. And if you are not getting emails from the IRS from their e-news subscription, then you'll want to check out I know it's a less than 5-minute video, but I have a video on my YouTube channel where I show you how to sign up for IRS e-news subscriptions, and then you can get things like this right in your email inbox. And this one, so the IRS has quite a few e-news subscriptions. I think they have like almost 20, or maybe it's a little over 20. But this one that I received the notice from with the reminders of the deadline dates, it's called the IRS News Wire. But you can definitely look through the list and also sign up for, additional subscriptions like the IRS, right? Subscription. So they have those emails that are coming out as well. So I'm going to put a link to that video so you can see how to sign up, and then you can get this in your email as well. All right. So again, as I said, this is going to be a short podcast today because I am going on vacation and I want to get out of here, and you guys are either tired or still working on getting your kids ready for back to school. So I am sure that you may appreciate this short podcast as well. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the 401st episode of the Putting the AP in Happy podcast, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Don't forget to check the show notes for the links mentioned in the podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and writing a review of my podcast on the platform that you use to listen. Stay happy.